John Maynard Keynes, an astute observer of his times, formalized the basic function between government stimulus spending and national economic growth, even during the First World War when times were hard in Britain and afterwards. With an economic slump, the upper classes were, of course, not broke and still had deep pockets that could be taxed. What could be more reasonable than to stimulate the economy with government deficit spending, taxing the rich to pay for it? Keynes, pronounced Keynes, did not, of course, advertise the unstated principle of taxing the rich to pay for government debt. Franklin implanted the policy well enough during America's Depression to tax the rich at a 90% rate, Franklin Roosevelt, and stimulate the economy out of recession with a number of government programs. In America today, however, the expression of Keynesianism in government deficit stimulus spending concurrent with tax cuts on the rich produces only deficits that for the U.S.A. presently are reaching toward $15 trillion. The U.S. Congress is not honest enough or intelligent enough to use realistic economic formula to make the economy function well. The middle class and the rich both want tax cuts. Their solution, since there's no representation of poor people in Congress, there are no poor congressmen, is to cut any public spending on the poor, and it still won't work. The economy as a whole, compared to liquid water, when the rich have siphoned all the water upward to a storage pool in their shining city on the hill, and the workers in fields perish for thirst, government policy taps the pool to let the taxes on the rich be a pipeline, letting cash liquidity flow downward to fill the rice paddies, so that vitality in rice may grow. The lofty management class, too, requires some water in ample quantity to finance their ethereal and mysterious Harvard economic contemplations in the sky tower offices and create their own pipelines to return the water back up the hill. The contentious process of water rights, cash economic rights among users in the fields and those living in the cloud towers in the shining city is an interminable phenomenon. Once the United States had FDR and Dwight Eisenhower on their side. Now they have Harvard elites concentrating wealth and power, the predator union, with globalism negating national boundaries and suck-up socialists tramping individualism, individual equal civil rights, and free enterprise. Class prerogatives have evolved to eclipse individual liberty. Concentrated wealth becoming a global network economic power phenomena merges with one-party politics at the East philosophically, not spiritually, because they're spiritually dead. Sometimes in history, a nation's wealth may become concentrated to such a point that the economy stalls. In a democratic society with free enterprise values, the modest egalitarian operating system, federal tax policy with Keynesian premises, is to then tax and redistribute much of the supply of concentrated wealth to economic stimulus programs via the government. What kind of economic development and who should get the stimulus spending are equally important considerations. One might change supply-side economics to mean supply of tax revenues. A 2011 study found that in research on 43,000 corporations, a small elite group controlled a third of the world's wealth. If stimulus programs redistribute wealth to networks of already concentrated wealth, the economic stimulus is unlikely to employ the unemployed. American workers waiting for shovel-ready jobs as if they were diggers from some underdeveloped nation is not a great direction to go at any rate. The federal unemployment measure of real people out of work that would work if there were realistically productive employment opportunities. U.S.A. has the U.S. rate of unemployment somewhere near 19%. Federal stimulus policy should always stress funding new businesses that will employ from 5 to 5,000 employees for a year or more, where they can repay the loans that would otherwise be written off. As much as talk radio and political soundbiters like to regard redistribution of wealth for stimulus spending in hard times, communism, it is the history of 20th century economic progress in the West. The Reagan use of Keynesian stimulus spending stimulated the economy, yet the concurrent tax cuts started digging the very deep national economic debt hole that seems destined to go through the earth to China over time. The myth of tax cuts and stimulus spending performing supply-side miracles might work in a different economic world.